Hello, hello, and welcome to Animal Action TV. I'm Aldwyn Altuney, and I'm very excited today. We've got an amazing guest coming to us from Perth, and she's actually one of our guest speakers who's going to be at the 12th Animal Action Night coming up on the Gold Coast on October 13. Her name is Yvonne Heiser-Taylor, and she has been a full-time barefoot hoof rehabilitation specialist helping thousands of horses for almost 20 years. And she's had training as a farrier. A farrier is a specialist who shoes horses in her early 20s in the United States. So she has a great understanding of both concepts with horses. She's had 28 rescue horses on her farm in the north side of Perth, and she says they've been great teachers for her over the years. Hello and welcome, Yvonne.
Hi, how are you? Great to see you again, even if it is on the screen, and great to be here. Thank you.
You too, Yvonne. Great to have you here, and really curious as to what is your background with horses. How did you actually start out with all this back in the US? Where are you from the US, firstly, and how did you get started?
Well, I'm actually from Kingsville, Texas, and but my parents were in the military, so I traveled quite a bit as a youngster, and any chance I could be near a horse, I could smell a horse 10 miles away, I would go and beg, borrow, whatever, just to be able to pick up horse food, be near horses. I was absolutely obsessed with them, and this started with my first pony ride when I was 18 months old, and I even remember that. And my mother used to take me horse riding every weekend, so I was just this massive horse lover right from the start. Now, when I was about 18, I got involved in a horse hire place, and I was really fascinated with what the farriers did, and I started learning back then.
Okay, fantastic. And what brought you to Australia?
My ex. So I came here. I was in Sydney originally. It was very hard to have horses there. So first chance I had, I traveled around the country, figured out where I wanted to live, which was Perth, and I came over here in 1990.
Okay, fantastic. And can you explain a little bit more about, a farrier? What is a farrier's role? So someone who shoes horses, but it's a lot more than just shoeing horses, isn't it? What does that involve?
Well, sure, they need to understand what's happening with the horse, how to balance the foot. Most of the time, shoes will assist a horse if they've got an injury or if they need to balance the foot. If a horse has a little bit of a conformation problem, maybe he's a little bit offset and he's wearing his hoof unevenly, which is causing problems to radiate through the body. I do find that shoes can actually help horses like that. So I'm not one of these purists that think barefoot's the only way. You have to be very realistic about what the horse has to do. If you have a horse that's at an adjustment center and you're paying $185 a week, which is the going rate over here, you do not want to have a horse that you cannot use or ride for any length of time. So occasionally I will have clients that I will say, these conditions or what you're doing with the horse or the ground that it's living on or the conformational problems it has, they might benefit more from having shoes on the horse. So I'm not afraid to say if a horse needs shoes, get them on them, but try to give them a break out of them. Because I did some work with Dr. Robert Bowker from the United States when he came here to Australia, and he got proof that long-term shoeing 24/7, 365, no break away from shoes does not help the hoof in any way, shape, or form.
Interesting. So what are a lot of the problems you're finding in the industry when you go to check hooves and check horses? What are people doing wrong out there?
I'm not going to get into the farrier side of it. One of the problems that we've got, I'm a barefoot person now. I don't do much of shearing anymore, although I have been to Africa and I was teaching farriers in Africa, and they were fabulous guys. I had the best time over there. Probably one of the biggest problems I see is this one-size-fits-all mentality toward horses. They drop the heels and the toes just take off. Now, long toes on a horse is the horse's enemy. But what happens is you can imagine trying to get around and perform in a pair of clown shoes. That's kind of what's happening with them. Not only does the heel go down and the toe take off, there's the back of the foot, or the caudal foot. I'll try to keep it simple. I like talking to people in everyday terms so they understand what I'm talking about. The back of the foot up to 4 years old is actually a fatty tissue. Between the ages of 5 and 8, it actually transforms into a more fibrous tissue, and that's called the digital cushion. So you can get away with having low heels and longer toes when this horse is young. But during that transitional phase, if you have that problem, then what happens, that transition doesn't occur. And then you end up with a back of a foot that looks like somebody's let all the air out of it. So not only are the bones in a negative alignment, you run into all other kinds of problems farther up the body, including too much pressure at the back of the knee, excess pressure at the fetlock. So it's like, it just seems to be a universal problem for some reason. And if you look at any lameness book, it says they should have heels and they should have their bones in alignment. And I'll explain to you how easy this is. I know the farriers kind of work off of the different parameters, and I have my theories on that. But with a barefoot horse, I found, and this is just my experience over years of observation, that where the neck joins the shoulder, that angle of the neck and shoulder where it joins, if you stand a horse on a vertical leg, that everything from the fetlock down should be in alignment. That includes the hoof in alignment with the bone. So those bones should be in alignment. So that alignment where the head and then where the neck comes into the shoulder and the vertical leg and all those bones below the fetlock should match in angle. So if they don't match in angle, you've got a problem. And the hind should only be a little bit more upright than the front. So the one-size-fits-all rule does not work. But they're all different, just like we are.
Wow, interesting. I always thought when I saw horses get shoes put on them, I guess, I always thought that was it seemed like a really harsh kind of process. And I thought surely that would hurt a horse to get, those the horseshoes put on. Can you explain a bit about that process? I know you're not doing that now, but does it really hurt the horse?
The only time that it might hurt the horse is if they have very thin walls, and there's a very sensitive tissue called the lamina, which attaches like basically the inside of the foot to the hoof wall. That's actually got like a blood supply. If they can accidentally prick that with a nail, so the walls are thin. The holes in a shoe are actually set at a certain distance, but different shoes, they're all different. All shoes are different in their thicknesses, etc. But if you accidentally prick that lamina line, they can end up with an abscess, or they can get soreness. The other problem is over-exuberant hot shoeing. That's where they heat the shoe like really hot, and then they kind of seat it by kind of burning it into the hoof. Now, some horses will react, and some may not. You don't know if the reaction is due to pain or the reaction is due to the sizzling or the smell or whatever. But they shouldn't overdo it. It's like, but most of the farriers I know a couple of really good ones over here, they don't overdo it. So it just depends on what the person themselves, who they've learned from, what their experience is, etc. So they all do their best.
Okay, and can you explain a bit about how many horses you've treated and what situations you've found more so maybe lately? Have there been changes? You've been in the industry for quite a while. Have there been changes that you've been finding in the issues that you're dealing with now with horses as opposed to, say, 10 years ago or 20 years ago?
Well, there's definitely more problems with metabolic disorders and the way that our hay is grown. I got to speak from WA's point of view. I'm not quite sure what's happening in the eastern states with their types of feed. They actually have access to a lot of feed that we do not have over here. So what I'm seeing is a parallel with the introduction of processed feeds to horses. The same kind of problems developing in horses as what's happening in humans in processed feed. So we're seeing some very interesting things come up. We're seeing like insulin resistance or equine metabolic syndrome or PSSM, which is polysaccharide storage myopathy. We're seeing all these metabolic disorders, which we kind of didn't see 20 years ago. Like some of these things I've never even heard of them. They may have existed, and some are genetic, but I just didn't hear about them that much. Feed stuffs are fairly basic. Now, you know, you can go and get a bag and it's supposed to do everything, and that's great. You mix that food with a bit of chaff and you're away. I can tell you from experience, my horse's diets are really simple. I don't feed processed feed, with the exception maybe of some high gain zero to some laminitics because they think they're getting a treat if you do that. But my horses are on really basic diets. I don't feed oat and hay here. And maybe that's because I was in the habit of that when I was in New South Wales. I don't know. But our oat and hay have changed here as well. They've become very, very high in sugar content. And where they didn't used to be even 20 years ago. Like, you can feed it fairly safely. Now it's just like, wow. You know, you're looking at sugar content of 12 going up to as high as 30 plus. That's a big difference in sugar content. So the biggest thing I'm seeing is increases in laminitis and metabolic problems, overly obese horses. They're getting a lot of these, but they're not getting enough work. So it seems to be the same way that people are going.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. So that's something definitely that people can actually take action on and not feed their horses so much processed food. So where can people get the unprocessed food? How easily accessible is it?
Well, again, it depends on the horse. And look, everything is breed specific. Like I say, pretty much anything under 14 hands, you're going to have problems with its metabolism when it gets older. If you abuse that metabolism when they're young, like look at us, you know, when we were younger, we used to eat everything, drink everything, we didn't care, have sugar, have this, have that. And as I told you earlier, now I'm hitting up, I'm 58 years old, trimming horses' feet 6 days a week. I've had to clean my diet up so I can keep going. So I've had to get rid of eating processed food. I've had to get rid of alcohol. I've had to get rid of, and I'm not saying people got to get rid of their red wine, but that's what people like that. But for me, to be able to do my job, I had to clean my diet up so my body could cope with the job that I'm doing. I can't eat the stuff I could even 20 years ago. So I'm just seeing, it's like as the processed feeds and horses are involved, people's processed feed, you're seeing fast food everywhere, et cetera, et cetera. I'm seeing exact parallel with obesity and problems and metabolic problems.
Interesting. And you've got 28 rescue horses, as you mentioned. So how did you come to get 28 rescue horses? And what have they taught you over the years?
Well, I originally had 45, and a lot of the oldies have slowly passed away over time. Yeah, how did I get them? I think they found me. Horses are amazing creatures, and they do not get the credit they deserve. People don't appreciate who they are. And I'm not saying all people, because my clientele, they're wonderful people. They're like really in tune with their horses. They love them. They care about them. And, you know, they're spiritually with them. And I know that people can go, horses are horses. Let me tell you, they communicate with you. They're telepathic communicators. If you don't believe that, you need to get in touch with your horses a little bit more. I get people go, oh, how do you possibly know what a horse thinks? Can you read a human facial expression? You can read a human facial expression. You can read a horse's facial expression. You can read human body language. You can read a horse's body language. So open your mind up, and you'll be okay. So these horses have found me over the years, little by little. Unfortunately, I'm not really taking on any more rescues because of the cost involved. The hay situation here in Western Australia has been very dire this year. I know that the thing that saddens my heart, I know that there would have been a lot of horses that did not get fed well or were sent to be put down as a result of not being able to get feed for them. And that's just the fact of how it becomes when we have hay shortages. And I think that kind of goes everywhere. But most of my horses, they've been laminitic. I had my old boy then. He only passed away 2 weeks ago. He was 36 years old. I got him from the RSPCA 12 years ago. He had a broken leg that was actually bent. And, you know, they were going to put him down. And unfortunately, a friend of mine worked with the RSPCA, so I used to get phone calls from her. I keep getting me horses. But no, he was happy. I managed him. I didn't let his weight get too much. He could canter. It was a little bit messy. But, you know, the horses, just because a human cannot ride a horse anymore does not mean that that horse does not deserve to live. Okay? And that's how I've ended up with so many of them here. Because something happened to them. They got laminitis. This is something I really want to stress too. You can recover a horse with severe laminitis back to 100% soundness even if the pedal bone comes through the bottom of the hoof, that's really complicated, but you can do it. And I've done it many times. As long as the horse wants to give it a go, you can tell if a horse does not want to live anymore and he can't cope. But even if they're lying there and they're eating and they're drinking, as far as I'm concerned, if they're eating and drinking, they want to keep going. But I mean, I've got horses here who had horrific problems, and they taught me how to manage them. Like, the good thing about having these kind of animals of your own, you can try things, and if that doesn't work, you're like, oh, okay, that didn't work, let's try this, or oh, that didn't work, let's try that. So what I've observed from them and what they've taught me and how to manage them, how to trim their feet, how comfortable they are with the method of trimming, observations I've made with tissues in the feet, like I can tell how far to take a laminated back by the tissue and how that consistency goes, whether it goes from crumbly to waxy, things like that. Color of the tissue, and I can tell where an abscess has been by the color of the tissue, how to manage abscesses. And horses can be real sucky when they've had things like abscesses. They walk around like they've broken their legs, but they actually haven't. But it's just really painful for them. So, yeah, all my kids have come to me little bit at a time, and there's only 28 left, and there won't be any more, and unfortunately I'm just getting a bit old. So my youngest one is like 3, so they live to about 40 if they're well looked after, it's all been proved. But so I don't know, they found me, and the ones I have, they were meant to be here, and they taught me everything I know.
Beautiful. And there's a lot of people that do horse whispering too, and I think that's something that you also do, don't you? You do horse whispering?
I've worked with a lot of trainers over time. When I want to communicate with a horse, I can look in its eyes, and I can talk to it, and I'll tell you, I don't care what anybody says. I can talk to them and look in their eyes, and I would guarantee that they understand what I'm saying just by the way they react. I can tell when they're cross or something's wrong, and then I'll just go, hey, it's okay. I'll look in their eye and go, hey, it's okay, and their eyes will go soft. So, like, I don't know. It just depends on the person who's doing interpretations. There's a lot of great horse people around. People are getting more in touch with their horses now. There's a lot of training around that is helping people get in touch with their horses. So if I look at where we were, like with the understanding of horses and understanding who they are 20 years ago, and now it's like a complete backflip. So I think we're really coming a long way in how we understand our horses.
So what advice would you give to someone who maybe wants to get a horse? What do they need to consider before they go looking for a horse?
Well, first of all, they don't like living alone. So if you're going to have a horse on its own, keep in mind they're a herd animal, and they don't like living alone. And sometimes a sheep or a chicken or whatever doesn't cut it. Depends on the animal. If you've got a horse that's been used to living in a herd and you want to take it away and have it at your house, it's not going to work really well. There's going to be a lot of stress and anxiety. 2, go and do some riding lessons. Go and do some horsemanship. Horsemanship and being able to work with a horse on the ground is probably one of the most important things. Your ground work is your foundation for your written work. Okay? Be careful who you pick. Make sure the person you pick to do training with is compatible for you and your horse, and that's really individual. Go and do a lot of work on yourself. Learn how to meditate. If you get angry at a horse, don't get me wrong, I have horses that have little flights to me now and then, and I'll give them a scold. Like, I'll just look them in the eye and go do that. But, because sometimes they're just cheeky. But go and just learn as much as you can before you get one. Not only that, sit down and look at how much it's going to cost you to keep them. Okay? The feeding every week. Hay every week, okay? Feed and hay are probably one of the biggest expenses. You have to get the teeth done. Sometimes 6 months, sometimes yearly. Feet need to be done every 6 weeks. Worming 4 times a week. If you get a vet bill, or you get a colic, or you get a problem like that, keep in mind those vet bills can run into the thousands. Make sure you can afford to have one in the worst case scenario. You know, and not only that, it's not something you can leave. If you go away all the time, you go on holiday all the time, or you like to take off and go here for the week and go that, that animal still needs to be looked at while you're away. When I go away to Bali or to Africa or wherever, the logistics of getting my animals looked after is huge. My number one priority is that they are looked after while I'm gone. So it's like having a child, pretty much. The responsibility is the same. The only difference is if you could sell the child, you could sell this child. But again, like, I would never sell my horses. They're like part of my family. So I could not do that to them. You get to know them, their personality, they love you, you know, you just, and you love them. Like, it's like, it is like having a child. If you cannot look at a horse like that, you need to seriously maybe just think about going riding at a riding ranch on the weekend. Okay? Because the commitment is huge. It's a lifestyle commitment. It is not just a dump your horse in the just center on the weekend kind of thing. Which, unfortunately, a lot of people do this situation, but they still go down. They still get down and see their horses. Yeah, that's the best advice I'm giving. And the work involved, picking up manure, cleaning up after them, making sure they got fresh water. It's huge. But that's all I do around here. So I do have a good land. But, yeah, it's huge. It's a commitment. It's a lifelong commitment, too. And when something happens to them or something goes wrong, it just is devastating as losing a family member. That's how I find. I'm like devastated if something happens to them. But I do accept, I give them the best life I can. If something does happen that's out of my control, that's fine. And the other thing you need to consider, if something happens, that's expensive too. Even if you have to have them put down. My horses have been cremated. Cremation is about $1,800. That's per animal. So, but it just depends. It's all up to the person, but do your homework. I get people who move up here that we got 5-acre lots around the corner. Oh, I want to get a pony for my kid. Yeah, send your kid over here for a week. Let me put it through the pace. If it still wants to be around horses by the time I've worked it, then maybe the kid might live a horse. But it can be, it's the most fabulous thing in the world, and it's the most heartbreaking thing in the world, too, if it doesn't work out. And second of all, if you do find a horse, don't buy the first thing you see, and make sure that you can take it on trial and that it's going to work out for the both of you. Because there's nothing worse than getting a horse and then you guys don't get along. And don't buy a saddle before you buy the horse. You buy the saddle just to the horse. And then you got ongoing riding lessons. So it's an ongoing thing. It's constant.
They say with human beings, if you have a child up to the age of 18, you spend about $1 million on that child by the time it's 18. So with a horse, with 40 years, if your horse lives to 40, how much would you spend over the life of a horse to look after that horse, would you say?
Oh, wow. Okay, well, we can't discuss this too much because my husband will probably watch it. Oh, my goodness. Well, goodness me, I hadn't even thought about that. I usually sit down and look at things on a month basis. A single horse, let's say you have to pay adjustments to it. So there's $180 a week, so there's almost $800 a month. Feeding a horse every week probably costs you $60 to $70 a week. A full board usually includes their food, so you don't have to have that. But, you know, you're talking minimally $1,000 a month, at least. And then what is that, $12,000 a year times 40 years? And I'm not saying all horses live 40 years. 30 is a good inning. My kids have a tendency to live really long, much to my husband's disgust. They live really, really long. So 30, between 25 and 30 is your average. Yeah.
So $12,000 a year times however many years. So obviously your horses are happy if they're living long lives because you know what you're doing with them, which is fantastic. And I think the more we can educate people and to think about this kind of stuff, because, you know, it's all very romantic and very, you know, lovely to think, oh, yeah, let's just get a horse. But, you know, it really needs a lot of careful consideration. And, you know, you often do see horses, you know, on their own in a paddock, and they do look sad and they do look lonely. You know, it's kind of like humans, like we are herd animals as well. It's kind of a lot of humans that end up, you know, people that end up depressed, often they're very lonely. And so we need company, and good company too. So back to, you said that horses need hay. What about grass? Can they just eat grass or not?
Well, it depends on the grasses. Like, we've got grasses here that create problems with mineral uptake, piculia. I believe Queensland has Soteria, which does the same problem. We don't have the pastures here that they say have in England, okay? We don't have the mix of grasses and the herbs and everything else. And because we don't have that, the horses, and a lot of times, like most of our adjustment centers here, they've got piculia, right? And that's not really that good for them, okay? Because some of it restricts some mineral uptake, like calcium. And, like, it's okay, they can eat it, but we've got sand here, so piculia and those root mat grasses, they're the ones that people have attempted to plant here. But again, it's a monoculture. So it's only one thing. They're eating one thing day in, day out. And even, like, I bury my guy's hay, and I buy my hay from all over the place. So my mineral contents are going to be different. So I vary my horses' diet, only minutely, but I like them to have a bit of, I don't feed my horses the same exact thing every single day. Because I've seen horses that, like, they kind of hit this stagnant point. You can imagine if you ate the same thing every single day, how you would feel. And look, they don't feel that great when they're on the same thing every day either. So you just make a little change every few months, or throw a little bit of something extra, and throw a little bit of sweet potato in there chopped up, and just give them a little something, make it interesting again. But, like, again, this is getting back to, you've got to think about what you're doing. So, like, it's not just, let's just throw that and that's it. Like, you can tell horses go through cyclic periods, and their metabolisms go through cyclic periods with the seasons. And you've got to make chops and changes to their feeds and minerals, etc., as this happens. Now, me personally, I give my horses free access to minerals. They can take them if they want them. Because I am not feeding processed feed with a high mineral and vitamin content. And I got a problem with this anyway. I don't advise my clients to do that. I don't advise them to put vitamins and minerals in their feed if they're feeding a pellet that's got a vitamin and mineral content already. There are some feeds that advocate to have a minimum, that meet the horse's minimum RDA every day. I'll tell you what, if you want to see how your horse is going on a pelletized feed over a period of time, watch their urine. Because the urine will change color, they'll go cloudy if they're getting calcium or having too many issues. Look at your horse's coat. Look at the overall demeanor. Like, observe how he is. And, like, my horses have, I'll tell you what I'll do. My horses have free access to magnesium oxide, a product called Eclomin, okay, which is made in WA, by WAZ for WA conditions. And they get free access to kelp, because I find sometimes they don't want to touch it, and then other times they consume it. It's got trace minerals, it also detoxes them. They get a separate container of water with bentonite clay, which also helps. It's not their main water source, it's an alternative water source. They can detoxify themselves if they want, and I give them access to rock salt. And they take what they want. I do not force those types of things into my horses. Now, not everybody's in a situation. If you're adjusting a horse, you're subject to them feeding whatever they feed. Okay? If you're in control of your horse's feeding, you can experiment. Every horse is different. They know what they need. Just like we actually know what we need, but we've lost that ability. So, yeah. Sorry, get a little bit into that one.
No, that's...
The feeding is such a massive, massive part of their feed. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of like people, again, if we just eat sugar and carbs all the time, we're not going to be operating very well, are we? We're going to have inflammation, we're going to be acidic, all that sort of thing. So obviously if a horse also has a lot of sugar in the diet, surely that can't be good. So you would imagine, you think... They're not meant to have sugar in their diet. A natural horse does not have sugar in their diet. Yet we think feeding them sugary stuff and molasses and stuff all the time is great for them. It's not. It's not good for them. Sugary feeds are not good for them. Just like sugary cereal is not good for your children. It tastes good, but the problems it causes, excitability. But the horses get allergies to some food stuff as well. Like I feed lupin to my horses. Like, this is a bit of protein. And they don't get them all the time. But I get people telling me, oh, my horse goes to lupin. I'm lupin. No pun intended. But it always goes loopy.
But I'd say, well, that horse might be sensitive to that particular food stuff. Why wouldn't they be immune to having sensitivities to food stuff like we do? And they do. They have allergies just like we do. So.
Yes, it's interesting. There's so much to think of with horses, isn't it? And, you know, for someone that's never had a horse, I've never had a horse. I think they're amazing animals, and, you know, so strong and majestic even. You know, they've been around for thousands, hundreds of thousands probably of years. Horses go way back as man's best friend, isn't it? A horse is a man's best friend, they say. Yet, you know, you look at how horses are used nowadays. I mean, you know, the whole racing industry will, you know, there's a whole other kettle of fish there. And a lot of people who bet on horses have no idea what race horses go through, right? And obviously in your many years in doing what you do, obviously you've seen what can happen with racehorses and how racehorses are treated, and they probably don't live that long, I would imagine, as well. Can you give us a bit of insight into what your view is on horses used for racing in the racing industry?
So I actually have a client here who races her horses barefoot. Now, most of the time you've got thoroughbreds, they've got horrible feet. These horses who have not had shoes on, and even the ones she's gotten that she's allowed the feet to recover and recovered the feet, these horses have magnificent feet. So this is not so much the problem. The problem is it's being shod young. When they're shod at 12 months or 18 months, the foot's trying to grow and expand. It doesn't really get a chance to do that. Dr. Robert Backer showed constant shoeing actually skinned the foot, and it now adapted the foot. Sharon May David, she actually spoke about how we know that the horse's body actually doesn't mature until they're 8 or 9 years old. We know that the ends of the bones don't harden until they're 5. You know, and these horses are racing races doing high impact work. And like I said, most of the time, most of the injuries, I believe, from what I've been told and what I've read, occur on the corners, where there's a lot of torsion through the limbs on the corners. So I'm not in the racing industry. I can only go by what I see, but I usually see very low heels, very long toes, usually injuries. Now, the other thing is these low heels and long toes on all 4 feet, the horse cannot stand up, so its posture is horrible. So if you've got a horse that's standing bad posture, it's like you slumping over all the time. But do you think your body's not going to be sore and you're going to be able to optionally function if your posture is horrible? You know, like your mom told you to sit up, you know, at the dinner table and all that kind of stuff for your food to digest. But I'm trying to get something like that. But it's a posture thing. Like hoof balance is related to posture. If your horse has good posture, he's going to have good muscle development. And not only that, he's not going to get the stress and strain on his tendons and joints either. So, like I said, it's really, the hoof balancing issues, they're really basic. So I don't understand where it's linked, like where all that knowledge went. I learned with an English master farrier. He didn't teach me what I see. I see all kinds of interesting things out there being done to horses too. I didn't learn that. He taught me how to use my mind and use my brain and make observations and learn to treat every animal as an individual. And I benefited from that. And he told me to question everything. And I do.
I think that's a good idea. Well, I spoke to someone the other day who said 90% of racehorses have blood in their lungs or something. She's actually, Colleen, she's going to be speaking at the Animal Action Night. But she was basically saying that it's very, very cruel basically the conditions that racehorses go through. And, you know, you see how many deaths there are that happen with racehorses that might break their leg, or, you know, like the one at the Melbourne Cup a few years ago that didn't want to race, and it was forced to race and then had a heart attack and died by the end of the race. And, you know, that kind of thing that happens all in the name of, well, it's big money, it's big business. And when people support racing, when they bet on a race, that's what they're supporting, that industry. And then some people say, oh no, but racehorses are really well looked after, and horses are meant to be running and they love running and that sort of thing. You hear that argument, right? So what do you think about that? Do you think horses naturally love to run? And if they do, are they really well, I mean, I don't know, like how they're being trained for races versus how they would be naturally. Do you think horses really love it as much as the people that race the horses say they do?
Well, I know a lot of race horses that don't like running, and they don't last very long. And the problem is race horses are treated like an expendable, okay? They don't do any good. They don't do good. From what I understand, for instance, some statistics I read, over probably a good over half of the race horses that are bred are not around anymore by the time they're 3 years old. Now, when I teach trimming, I have to use cadaver legs, unfortunately. There's no better way to teach it. I've tried teaching it without it. They've got to get the feel of the tools on a hoof, actually, and they can make mistakes on a cadaver foot and that they cannot make. We don't want them doing that on a live horse. But I can tell you now, I never had trouble getting 50, 60, 70, 80 legs from the abattoir. Okay, and when you think about that, there's 20 horses right there, and they never have trouble supplying that many animals come in and out. As a matter of fact, there was a time when so many animals were coming through there that they were not able, they were starting to turn them away because they were just touching them animals coming through there. So it's a little bit of an expendable wastage industry. I'm not going to say all, because I have some friends in the racing industry, they really do love their horses and they really do care. It's an individual thing. Mm-hmm. But I think the horses are too young, knowing how about the physiology. Dr. Terry Ridgway says that probably at least up to 90% of these horses have ulcers as well. So you can imagine a horse who supposedly, quote unquote, likes to run, but is kept in a stable for 24 hours a day, or 23 hours a day. Some of them, that's how they live. Like around the racing complexes, they're in stables all day. That's not natural for them. So how can you expect their body to be fit, strong, and healthy if they're standing around all day and they only go out for an hour a day, or they go in a trotter or walker for a while or whatever? So, but like I said, I know a lot of people who have horses, race horses, and they are looked after. And you can tell, and they find homes for these animals if they don't work out. Unfortunately, that's not the fate of a lot of them. Like I remember seeing a racehorse the other day next to its brand with 400 and something. That was the 400th foal of that year out of that stud. That was insane. I'd never seen anything like that before. Why would you breed 400 horses in the hopes of getting one Maccabi Diva or get, one of those, the one Black Caviar? Those horses are rare and far in between. As far as gambling and all that goes, I don't know. Horse racing has been around for thousands of years, just not like it is now. But I try not to think about the racing industry much because it does upset me, the wastage. So, but I just I don't support it, and I just help out my friends who race their horses barefoot or their horses coming out of shoes in between. At least they give them time off. So I don't get into it. I don't know enough about the racing industry to comment on it. All I know is my observation. So that's my opinion on that. Yeah.
Well, that's all you can go with, really. What do you know the average lifespan of a racehorse versus a horse naturally in the wild?
Racehorse, maybe, unless if they don't rehome it, 2 or 3 homes, it might live a bit longer. But horses in the wild, I don't know. I remember Sam Watson had a 30-year-old wild horse that he retrained. They're saying they don't live. I'll tell you what you wouldn't see. Horses with bad conformation or bad bone structure in the wild. I get people, I've learned how to manage conformation problems in horses, skeletal structure problems in horses, to make sure that the hoof stays balanced even if they got offset bones and things like that. That's just been through trial and error over the years. But these horses, you will not have a horse with bad conformation. It won't be able to keep up with the herd. It'll break down, it'll get eaten, and those problems will not get passed on. So what I've seen over the last 20 years is a massive dive in conformation in animals, and especially miniature horses too. A lot of your finer bred horses, like quarter horses, Welsh, Arabian. I've seen a slight decline in conformation in those breeds as well, and some warm bloods, etc. But I think if breeding was kept to professional breeders who knew what to breed from and what not to breed from, then we wouldn't have so many conformation issues that changed it with breeding. And the number of times I had someone say to me, oh, I can't, my horse is such, she's a horrible mare, I'm going to breed from her, I can't ride her. It's like, why would you breed from her if you're having this kind of problem? You want the optimal body, you want the optimal temperament, you want everything. And just because you take a horrible horse and you breed it to a good horse doesn't mean you're going to get a good horse. Because there's 50% of those genetics is going to come from the horrible horse. So, I mean, I quit breeding, one, because I still have all my babies. I couldn't get rid of them because they were like my babies.
Yeah.
So I had to say, no more breeding for you. And, but I was very careful about what I bred with. It had to have the temperament. It had to be put together well. I mean, you're always going to get a throwback genetically somewhere. I mean, you can't guarantee anything. But, you know, and like I was really careful about what I bred with. And the result, my horses did very well at the shows. They lived a long time. They didn't break down, etc. So, yeah, it's kind of a big subject. And it's very open topic and very passionate topic for a lot of people I know.
Yes, and we'll be covering it. We've got this lady called Colleen coming along to the Animal Action Night who will be speaking all about that, so that will be interesting to hear that. And you've done some amazing stuff. You were an instructor in the Australian Army for 12 years. What was that like?
Yeah, it was fun. I instructed everything from drivers to recruits to clerks to corporal to you name it. I taught everything. The good thing about the Australian Army compared to the American Army is that they're allowed to multitask in the Australian Army, and I was good. I was able to do a lot of different things. It was very great, and you know, it really helped me with what I'm doing now. It helped me be an effective teacher when I'm teaching. It made so I could explain things to people very simply. I mean, even when I talk to veterinarians, I don't use the big words. I mean, I like to talk to people and I like to explain things to people in a way that they can understand. Because there's no point trying a bunch of big words at people and trying to impress someone if they have no idea when they walk away going, what the hell they talk about. I want people to understand what I'm talking about. So if they don't understand it one way, I can figure it out another way to explain it as well. But it was a massive opportunity. Everything I've done led me up to this point. I love what I do with the horses because it makes a difference. And not too many people could say that about their job. But I make a difference. I save horses' lives all the time, as a lot of my clients to attest. And I throw a voice of reason in there when there's emotion, etc. So, yeah, I love what I do. It's awesome.
That's brilliant.
I'm getting a bit old now, but I'm still going to go as long as I can.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And I think it's fantastic that you're teaching people what you do as well with your courses. I think it would be invaluable for people to learn from your wealth of knowledge in this area. And you've also been to Africa training farriers in Zimbabwe. Yeah. You've done that twice. Yeah. And you've assisted the Kuta pony cart people in Bali each year. Yeah. With information and farrier supplies too. So you've got Zimbabwe and you've got Bali. So what was that like in both of those places?
Well, Africa was interesting because the first time I went, I mean, I spent 3 days researching how the horses live, what they ate, etc. Because everywhere a horse lives, every way it lives, every surface it lives on, it just changes everything. So I had to learn what they were dealing with at that time. And that time was, I didn't see too many horses with laminitis there, which was interesting. But they didn't have access to a lot of sugary food either. So a lot of it was just mostly hay. So it actually worked out in their favor. But the guys were great. Now, the first time I went, I didn't have an interpreter. I just assumed they could understand everything I was talking about because I go, okay, guys, you understand what I'm saying? They're like, oh, yes, Matt, I'm great. And then at the end of the course, I'm sitting there and looked at one of the guys, and I went, you'd like that book I gave you, huh? And he's like, oh, yeah, it's good. He's looking at it upside down. And I realized that they could not say all that written stuff I gave them. No good. So next time I went back, I had an interpreter, and they're like, oh, yeah, we got it. And I'm like, well, why didn't you say you didn't get it? Oh, we just wanted you to be happy. I'm like, oh, yeah, great. You didn't learn anything. So it was a learning experience for me because I was dealing with people who were basically illiterate, and everything was hands-on. Bali, oh yeah, and I was a white woman, so that was interesting as well. Took them a little while to get past that fact too.
Yes.
Bali's been a little bit more difficult Because those guys get bland. I'm like, all these people come up, you need to do that. You're doing that wrong. Your horses, that's cruel. That's hot. Give them water. Do this. Do that. And, like, the only thing I ever gave them crap about was the low heels and long toes that they had in the horses. And then I thought, hold on, why should I be doing that? I need to help them. So I talked to a couple to start. And I'd go, oh, hey, you know, and, like, I actually got some pictures out of some books, and I translated into Indonesia about balance and things like that. And then I gave them to them so they could have a look at it. Like, most of those guys then put shoes on, okay. It's just the finer things about supporting the foot correctly. They have to wear shoes because they're working on bitumen. There's no way around it. And their horses are standing on the bitumen, and they're working pretty hard. But, you know, they love them. They do carry water. They do carry food. Those are tough ponies. You know, like, you cannot go to a country where these people are trying to feed their family and tell them they can't do what they're doing. You can't force Western values on Asian countries, I'm telling you now. And as much as we think it's cool, it's more beneficial to help them and help them understand, because knowledge is power for them. And, like, the good thing is, with, like, sending in Africa, when one of them starts doing something, the rest of them start doing something. So they all kind of copy each other. And I'm friends with over a dozen of them on Facebook now. So I will actually get them little bits of info. I'll send them photos. I'll take them up farrier tools. Now I'm trying to get past I got bailed up by the customs people last time I went. And I managed to get through with all the tools I took, but because they were new tools, they're like, oh, you're coming up here to sell them. And luckily I had text from the guy saying a donation. But now I got to get through that kind of little thing. If I had to take donations to pay tax, I got no problem. But trying to find out how I can get this information has been fun. But I actually like working with third world countries with horses. Like, they're great. Like, the people are great. They want to learn. They're motivated. Like, they care. They're not. I find a lot of people are apathetic. They want the knowledge, but they don't want to go to the trouble of the UK. Bless you. Like,
oh, excuse me. Excuse me, as a little sneeze came out.
I mean, I love going over to third world countries. I'd love to do more, except my clients get really upset when I'm gone for a while. So instead of my ponies, I get the bum to the fence when I come in the gate, like Bluesy beans. So they get upset too. So, I mean, I love it. I think it's great. I want to do more. I try to help do the Bali guys, Africa guys. I'm friends with them on Facebook and on WeChat and stuff. Help them out as much as I can. The situation's pretty bad there. They want me to come back, but they can't guarantee my safety there. So until we can do that, it's just no go to Africa at this point in time. So at least them anyway, in Harare, where I was. But it's great. Love it.
Amazing. And you've trimmed elephants, donkeys, mules, cows, goats, sheep, birds, and anything else with a hoof or claw. Now, this takes me back to when I had a cat many years ago, and I do have a cat now, but many years ago I used to actually trim my cat's little claws, right? And I know my cat used to hate it, and I've had a cat now that I adopted about 9 years ago, and I've never done it with this particular cat. So do you think it's important with cats and with dogs even that we should clip their nails, their hoofs, or their claws?
It depends on how they live. If they're little couch potatoes inside all the time, you may have to. Even if they you have to give them a really decent scratching. I mean, even if you cut their claws, they go and use your curtains or use your couch and sharpen themselves back up again. It just depends. Like, my dog's an outside dog. He runs around everywhere. I never need to do his claws. So it just depends on the living conditions of the animals. My old dog, didn't have to trim him when he was younger. He was 16 and a half. He was only supposed to live to 14, that breed. And that's what I said, everything lives here a long time. But his little claws, because he wasn't moving around as much, he wasn't running as much, the claws would get long and they'd start to curl a little bit. So, yeah, we did end up having to clip him in his last few years of his life. So it's individual, again, under circumstance, what the animal's doing, what kind of claws they got. Dogs got prompted to claws and things like that, the whole game ball game. So, but it just depends. But horses too, like horses. I got a horse here. She's kind of a little crazy. All she does is run. I hardly ever have to trim her feet. She trims her own. My horses who live out in the hills, my clients in the hills, their horses' feet fare much better than the ones that live in the sand or the grass. So again, it depends. Like they're all different. Yeah. And the one thing I want to stress right now, that there's a trend right now of working on a wild horse model from America on the feet and doing some really strange things to feet. One thing I want to say is every animal is different. Conformations are different. Sorry. Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. Grab some water.
So horses, like they were in Africa, actually Africa and Kalgoorlie are really similar. Where the ground is hard, the foot will be flatter and harder and more compact. The softer the ground gets, the more concave the hoof gets. So they're obsessed with, the being concave surface, things like that. They also grow a very thick second sole in the summertime. Horses actually collect dirt in their hooves. And what this dirt does, it compacts and it supports their coffin bone density. That's their foot bone density. So soon a horse will be running, he'll be collecting dirt. He'll hit a hard surface, the foot will flex, it'll kick that pad of dirt out. And then he'll run, he'll pick some more up, he'll collect it, kick it out. So, but these pads of dirt serve a purpose. But in the summertime here, when the ground is too dry, for them to pick up, they grow a second sole so they don't lose their coffin bone density. Because it's actually been proven that horses who've got laminitis, they walk back to keep the weight off their front feet because they're sore, they can lose coffin bone density within 6 weeks if they're not weight bearing on their feet correctly. They lose bone density. So what the dirt plug does is it keeps pressure on the bone to keep the bone density up. What the summer sole does, in Africa it's called the winter sole, what the second sole does, it does the same thing. It provides support to the bone. And you know what? It'll grow as thick or as thin as what the ground's going. The other thing, too, you don't need to drop the heels to make the frog contact the ground. That's the central soft part of the hoof. You don't need to do that. Because what will happen, don't forget, the foot sinks in the ground. So if the frog needs more support, it'll actually grow more tissue down. So this business of dropping heels off and causing imbalance in the feet, people need to really rethink that, too. Yeah, getting back to keeping those bones in alignment from the bottom, the very bottom of the hoof. Yeah.
That's.
My computer's having a cow. Gonna have to plug in here. Hold on.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's going the battery's low.
Oh, okay. There we go. Well, we'll be wrapping up soon. We'll wrap up in about 5 minutes or so.
There we go. I'm plugged in.
Excellent. Okay. So that's very, very interesting. All these things that you would never normally think about. It's amazing. And now you are constantly learning as well, and you're always looking for ways to make horses' lives better, which is awesome. And you're in your final year also studying a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture and Environment part-time at Curtin University. So why is it you decided to do that course?
Well, I wanted to know how the horse's food was growing. I wanted to know how the food was being produced. I wanted to know what processes went through. I wanted to understand how the environmental factors triggered metabolic changes and problems in horses as well. Now, while I've come a long way, there's still so much to learn. And look, I say I don't know everything. Okay, I'm learning all the time. No matter how much I know, I can always learn more. And I think that's everybody. If you think you know everything about horses, or you know everything about feed, or you know everything, no, you just need to rethink yourself, because there's still so much to learn. There's new science coming out. I keep up on stuff, but I still use a logical mind, because you have to use a logical, common sense approach when it comes to horses, because that's what they are. They're a logical, common sense approach. And like the problem with people is they like to create problems, or they cause a problem with some new fandangled way of doing things, and then they figure out a way to fix it, but they shouldn't have messed it up in the first place. So it's like Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Horses are simple. Like, keep the diet simple. Don't screw with the feet too much. Don't overbalance them or underbalance them. It's actually really common sense, even though that's not so common these days.
Interesting. And there's pet insurances and things out there too, isn't there, to keep bills down and things? Is there much for horses in that area?
Yeah, there's insurances, but it would cost me way too much to insure all mine. And believe it or not, mine don't get sick very often. So if they do, well, there's usually a good reason for it. So, but I think if you've got like a $50,000 warm blood, you're going to want to insure it. But that has a downside too. I know of horses who've been insured. They've gotten a thing of laminitis instead of going through the effort of trying to recover the horse from the laminitis, and which you can 100%, by the way. Is like they just said, "Oh, we'll just collect the insurance and get another horse," so they had the horse put down, right? Or they had it written off. That doesn't need to happen, but unfortunately, that's the way it is. I know there's a lot of people who do that. Can't do anything about that.
That's sad, isn't it? When people in control of horses that decide to put the horse down when it really doesn't need to happen. And this is what I love about Healing Hooves, who we're raising money for this year with the Animal Action Night for Horses that we're putting on the Gold Coast on October 13, is we're raising funds for Healing Hooves, which basically takes in special needs horses which would have been put down because they're maybe blind in one eye, or they've got hoof problems, or they've got issues, and they would have normally been put down, and they're all in this sanctuary in Nerang, which is fantastic, and they need all the help they can get. And they actually do healing sessions with special needs people as well as with able-bodied people as well. And I think it's just wonderful. And I went out to the sanctuary the other day, and it's just so moving being around horses. It's something, when you live in the cities, I guess you don't get to experience that much, but there's a certain presence about horses that is very special. And I don't know quite what that is, but there's a strong, peaceful presence generally with horses, unless they've had some kind of trauma, probably is my experience. So what would you say about that, about what sort of presence do horses give you?
They're my calming, unless I'm yelling at them for getting out, but the miniatures are like having a bunch of naughty children around. They're always trying to get in trouble, but anytime my husband sees I'm angry or something, he's like, "God, spend time with your horse, just go." Because like the day I lost old Zen, the other old horse that was next to him, is very sad about losing him as well. I just went out and gave him a big hug, and I was holding him, and I was crying on him, and he was just like, "Yeah, it's all good," Like, horses are cool. They accept everything. Like, they accept death. They accept the circle of life. They just kind of go with it. And it's us humans, they just kind of go with it. Like, we're the ones that get like super freaked out about it, but they're like, they're cool. They're cool with it. They're very calming. Like, I have a couple of friends over here that do the cognitive learning and the therapies and all that, and they tell me about the results they get. It's amazing. Like, it's amazing. Any animal is a healing animal. Look at all the people who have cats or dogs, and they have healing with dogs as well. And like, a pet is like love. That's it. Like, any animal is love. So, like, if you love it, it loves you. 99.9% of the time. There's still odd animals out there who still don't trust the people, but generally they're pretty good. You can get through them. I've got horses here that were absolutely violent, hated people to a T. They're like the softest, most push-button, love-you, little doe-eyed things around now. So, but like, it's like anything like humans. It depends on the environment that they're exposed to. If they're exposed to a loving environment, they become loving. If they're exposed to a violent environment, they become violent. So, no different. They're just like people.
Yes.
And I say that all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Often when you see aggressive dogs, I mean, dogs are the most loving creatures. And when you see an aggressive dog, it usually is because the owner is aggressive. That's what you see. And it's quite sad. I mean, I adopted my cat 9 years ago, and he was a bit anxious when I first got him. He had some issues where he'd been left alone for a long time in a unit, and also he had some issues with dogs, and so he's very anxious around other dogs initially. But now that, you know, I've had other dogs at the house over time, he's actually, you know, warmed to that, and and he's just so lovely and cuddly and just so warm, and he's completely doted over. So I give him a lot of love, and he definitely gives a lot of love back. So I'm very, very blessed and grateful. It just goes to show that animals can change with time too. So they, you know, if they've had harder times and you give them love, it's amazing how quickly they can turn around and just give you that love back. So it's really beautiful, and it is a blessing really to have an animal in your life. So it is important that we do the best we can to have happy animals, because, well, they say happy wife, happy life, right? But I think, you know, happy animals also happy animals is also a great thing. And if you're happy, the animals will be happy, and vice versa. So it is choosing love over fear, isn't it?
Yeah, and like if you don't know something, there's always somebody that can help you. If you have a horse that's got a problem, you can always get help from someone. Just avoid cruelty. Like sometimes you gotta like say, come on, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, and give a little bit of encouragement, but avoid cruelty by all means. Like being cruel to a horse and creating more fear in a fearful situation is not the way to go. So you need to just like think, okay, I wouldn't like that. I don't do anything with the horses that I wouldn't do to myself. That's probably the best advice I can give to any. Don't ask them to do anything. Don't treat them how you wouldn't want to be treated. Consider them. If they're cold, sort it out. If they're hot, sort it out. But, you know, it's like again, like I said, like having a child. Use your brain and do what you need to do. And look, they appreciate it. They may not act like it sometimes. Horses can be a bit aloof, mares in particular. But my boys are like big girl, like big baby horses, and the girls are like whatever, you know. So girls can be a little more, because girls and mares are the boss in the world for people who don't know that. Not the stallion, he's just there to provide the breeding. It's the head mare that's the boss of the herd. And if the boys get out of control, they say, hey, just off from the herd, and you can go out and get eaten. And the boy's like, okay, I'll be good, can I come back? So, like, it's the girls in charge out there, not the boys. But, no, I mean, I've had stallions, and like, they're fabulous creatures, but they're not to be trusted 100%. But you just don't know. Anything with testicles has got a problem. Sorry about that, hubby, if you watch this. But I talk about in the animal kingdom, although I do know some humans that this could lie to, too. But it's just, they're fabulous animals. I couldn't say anything better about them. Everybody I talk to that's ever had a bad experience with a horse, it's been because they've been put in a situation they shouldn't have been. They've gotten kicked, they've gotten bitten, they've been bucked off, they've been scared by one. So, like, if people, and you know what gets me is people who think that's funny. They put someone on a horse that they know is going to buck them off or take off with them, and they think that's funny. That's like, come on, what's wrong? What's wrong with you? You know? So you find anytime you hear somebody has something negative to say about a horse, ask them why. Say, what experience did you have? Or they're too big and they're scary. Yeah, my 18-hand black Clydesdale, I can just put a finger on him and he'll move. Again, it gets down to training. And by the way, you have to be the herd boss of your horses. They have to see you as the boss. If you are not the boss, you'll get run over, you'll get pushed over, you'll get kicked, etc. If you're the boss and they see you as the boss, everything will be fine. Now, that doesn't mean being mean to them, but it means like, hey, don't push them. People think horses coming up and rubbing on them is a sign of love. No, it's a sign of dominance. This is what I'm saying. You need to go and do some horsemanship, understand how horse behavior is, and then you'll get there. But a horse pushing you off your feet, dominant. So I find if a horse accidentally pushes me off my feet, I'll push him back off his feet and reestablish that I'm not the pushover that he thinks I am. But, you know, I get horses, they'll get a little tripped out in the paddock, and I'm standing there, but they'll never touch me because I'm the boss. If I wasn't the boss, they'd probably bowl me over, but they won't touch the boss for fear of reprisal. But I usually just have to raise my voice up, and they're like, okay, sorry, you didn't need to do that. And always be fair, you know, kind and fair, but firm.
Yes.
So hey, kids, hey, we're getting back to the kids thing again.
Yes. Yes, yes, and they will push it, won't they? They'll push their boundaries sometimes, and push the limits.
Yeah. Yep, and the mares will especially. Everybody's always jostling their position in the herd. So you get a young mare. I'll never forget the day one of my mares found out she wasn't off the boss. She just looked devastated, like devastated. And I was like, sorry, kid, you're not head of this herd. I am. But they cracked me up. And, I said horses are like kids. When her sister was born, this same mare, like, she was devastated because her mom was telling her to go away from the other baby and just go away. And she was like, but you love me, And then next thing you know, the other one's coming up trying to suckle off of her and piss her off. And as soon as she tolerated, turn around, tell her off, the little one ran back to mom like, Mom, she tried to kick me. And next thing you know, the mare lunges back. It's like kids. Like, it's the same thing. It was hilarious to watch.
Wow.
And you just watch their behavior. If you have a horse and you get a chance, sit back on your porch and watch their behavior, because you will learn so much from their behavior. It's amazing.
Wow.
They're amazing creatures. We kind of got off the subject of feet here, didn't we?
we did get off a bit, but we are talking about we're talking about horse health as well. So it is general horse health, and we do need to wrap up very soon because we've gone to about an hour now. So any final tips for anyone on hoof care or on how to have healthy horses?
Look, there's a lot of people out there in the hoof care industry. They're in their learning stages, and they're doing the best they can. And I just say to those people, continue learning, because it's going to be about 10 to 15 years before you finally figure stuff out. And you got to figure it out yourself. And you got to learn how to use your eyes and use your brain. For horse owners, learn and understand the things that I'm talking about. Then you can make a decision as to who you pick to come and look after your horse's feet and your horse's health. So there's some great people out there. Go and find who you gel with and who's getting the results and who knows what they're doing. There's a lot of people out there, they're trying really hard, but they're not quite there yet. So it's got to be, use the common sense. Like, just use your brain. If you feel good to you, if your horse is happy about it, then you're on the right track. If your horse is getting nervous, they're getting anxiety, or you're getting anxiety, you're not with the right person. So search around. There's always someone else. So it's the best thing I can say.
Well, I think it's absolutely awesome what you do for horses, Yvonne, and I think a lot of people could learn from your wisdom. So do you have some upcoming courses that people can connect with you, or should they connect on Facebook? What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
I'm happy to do a lot of lectures. The training courses are really involved, and it depends on my time schedule. So usually when I get enough people inquire, then I will run one. But my courses are 3 days long. I'm thinking about making them 4, because I actually want people to understand what they're doing. And it's just the start. I'm telling them, just start. You got to do 100,000 feet like I have before you kind of start to get an idea about really what's happening. But it's, just tell them to keep in touch with me, I suppose, and I'll let them know if I get enough inquiries. I'll do one. Talks, I will travel anywhere to do a talk. I'm supposed to be going to Europe to do some talks. I just got to figure out when I can take 3 weeks off to go do that. So I do have people come and visit me here and come and learn. I had a farrier from Italy come over here and spend a month here with me, so that was great. But I'm always happy to talk to people and help them as much as I can. They can contact me via email or Facebook or whatever, but don't expect me to give you an ABC answer. I got to have the background information to be able to kind of give you an informed answer. So that's the way it is. Like, there's no quick answers. There's a lot of variables in solutions.
Fantastic. And of course, people can come along to the Animal Action Night. They can hear you live there. Yes.
Yeah. So they can come there, and I'll be happy to talk to people there as well. And I'm looking forward to catching up with you again and coming over there and doing that. great privilege to come over there and do that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you very much, because I know how busy you are. So I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule and away from your beautiful horses to come and do that. And no doubt you'll have someone looking after your horses. Well, I presume you have someone looking after your horses while you're away. So, but I do really appreciate that you're taking time out to come and be with us next month. And geez, it's about a month away. It's 10th of September already.
Not that far.
No, not that far at all. So really looking forward to having you over. Thank you so much for your time, Yvonne. Anything else, any final words before we wrap up?
Yeah, if you love horses, keep loving them. If you don't love them, learn to. And they are fabulous creatures. I cannot say enough about them. And all animals deserve our love and care and attention. But horses are in my special place. So.
Yes.
But yeah, just use common sense. Love them and enjoy them and appreciate them, because they're not here for as long as we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And you never know when they may not be here again, just like you never know when another person will be here again, or when even we'll be here again. So it is important to make the most of every precious moment and connect with the animals and learn. I hug
mine and kiss mine every day and tell them I love them. I do it because just like old Zen, I was so happy that I hugged him and kissed him and told him that I loved him, because by that afternoon he was gone. So, tell them you love them. Tell your husband you love them, or your wife you love them, or your kids you love them. So you never know. That's the way life is.
Yeah, absolutely.
I look forward to that with you, though.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much, Yvonne. Really appreciate it. And of course, people can connect with you on Facebook, and they can come to the Animal Action Night. And for those watching this right now, thank you so much for joining us. And if you've enjoyed what you've seen today, please share the love, put your comments underneath this video. So just comment in there what you thought, any questions you have. Have you had experiences with horses? What sort of experiences have you had? We'd love to hear from you, and we will get back to those, of course. So share the love. Make sure you subscribe to the Aldwyn Altuney YouTube channel, and you will see all the other shows that I've done on there. There's about 100 shows now, and all sorts of different topics. I've got shows. One show is called Media Mastery Show, helping people get their message to the masses. Something else I'm very passionate about is helping to decrease depression and suicide rates with more good news out in the mass media. So you can see that show, Media Mastery Show. There's also Truth Expose TV, which is exposing the truth of what's going on out there. And we do encourage people to do their own research, of course. And when it comes to the racing industry, we'll do your own research. Don't necessarily believe what we've said here today. We're just going from our experiences, or Yvonne is when she's talking about the racing industry. So do your own research in that regard, and you will know what sits right for you once you do your research as to whether you want to bet on the racing industry and support that, or whether you don't, and what actions you'll take from there. And so Truth Expose TV covers a whole lot of things, everything from chemtrails to microchipping. We've got a great interview on there with David Icke. If you haven't seen that, make sure you check that out. Truth Expose TV. I've got a show called Health Expose TV around health. And I've got, of course, the Animal Action TV you're watching here. We've got Star Expose TV with people in the entertainment industry. Also Movie Review TV is another one, Media Mastery Show I've mentioned. Movie Review TV I do with a guy called Michael Leonard Thompson, and we do some fun little movie reviews there. We've got about 30 of those on there. So lots of interesting viewing. Business Expose TV is another one. Lots of interesting viewing on the Aldwyn Altuney YouTube channel. So subscribe there. And also you can join us with more animal news on the Animal Action TV Facebook page as well. And if you want to connect with me personally, check out my website, aaxpose.com. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, Yvonne. And we're going to have an awesome Animal Action Night coming up on October 13 on the Gold Coast. So you can also check out.
I can't wait.
Yay, me too. Animalactionday.com. And we've got some awesome performers coming up also at the Animal Action Night this year. We've got Walter Smith, who's a fantastic performer, does a lot of Native American music. We've got Lauren Napier, she's a brilliant singer. We've got Colleen, Eliza Priddle's going to be speaking as well. We've got some phenomenal speakers, performers, and we're raising money for Healing Hooves, which is an awesome charity, as I mentioned here on the Gold Coast. So come and check it out if you're nearby. We've had people come from all over Australia to come to the Animal Action events, and some from overseas as well. So it will be brilliant. So I hope to see you there, and look forward to your feedback and comments as well under this video, wherever you're watching it, on social media or on YouTube. And share the love if you like what you've seen. We can all do our bit to make a difference for animals. So share the love, put your comments in. Love to hear from you. And we'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.